Good afternoon, Medicare Advantage risk adjustment operators, innovators, and learners. Welcome to another end of month live Q&A on our risk adjustment series. We've been covering risk adjustment years, and this is the Hughes Academy Risk Adjustment Made Easy, the Medicare Advantage kind. Um, 3 months ago, we started on understanding risk adjustment. We started on understanding how risk adjustment implications affect providers, um, technology vendors, billing encoders, audits, and various stakeholders in various scenarios. And we covered that in our very first episode on understanding risk adjustment. And we actually explained Medicare Advantage risk adjustment as a GPS, using that as an analogy to help us to understand Medicare Advantage risk adjustment. Last month, in the month of September, we went through risk adjustment years, and we continue on the risk adjustment years throughout this month in October. And then we had a live Q&A at the end of September. We have been covering several things on the risk adjustment year several years. Last month we covered calendar year, submission year, Julian date year, and in our last Q&A we covered mostly on payment month year and how it's different from payment year and how to identify these in risk adjustment resources. And it's amazing to learn a lot. And in all of them, there have been examples using Mr. Clark and Miss Jones to help explain this. So if you haven't watched any of them, um, I will really encourage you. I really encourage you to watch them on the Hughes Academy YouTube page. And last month we went through calendar year, submission year, Julian date year. This is this month. Sorry, this month we've been covering calendar year, submission year, Julian date year, and we have our live Q&A today. And the Q&A will cover all these because all the payment years are related. And our goal is that we are able to learn more about this and be able to also learn how to use this and identify them in our revenue cycle processes, in our risk adjustment audits, in diagnosis accounting. Sorry, let me get some water. In our diagnosis accounting, sorry for that. In our diagnosis accounting, and in all our various ways that we use risk adjustment data. So we are very thankful for you joining us today. And this is the Hills Academy Risk Adjustment Made Easy, the Medicare Advantage kind. And I am your host tutor, Dr. Prince Bewa. And we hope that this will be very useful for you as we go through. We've been covering risk adjustment years, and the corresponding cheat sheet is the Medicare Advantage Risk Adjustment Basics 2.2, the risk adjustment years that you can identify on our website. So, if you are joining us for the first time today, if you go to the description notes, you will recognize that all the links to all the 6 or 7 series that we've been covering in this episode are there. So, you can watch them. They are very short, brief, and can also tell you where you can download these. Um, so we will go through, and I'll quickly go through how to download the resources. Today I'm starting that first, and then we can go to our live Q&A, some of the questions that have come in for us to answer them. So if you navigate to the Heals Academy website and you go to the resources, you will see the Medicare Advantage Risk Adjustment Basics 2.2 risk adjustment years, and you can download your copy. Here is a copy of it. You can download your copy. It's taking a while to load, but you can easily download your copy. And yeah, here's one, and use it free. It's for free online. And also, if you haven't liked, subscribed, share, commented on YouTube, please go ahead and do that. And also, we have um, a growing community of risk adjustment learners. And once you sign up, you also get our signature gift, which is free for you, from chaos to clarity, the essential Medicare Advantage risk adjustment data sources comparison cheat sheet. You come to the resources you can get, and then it's going to navigate you there that you can get a free copy. And please feel free to join our learning community. It's growing and people are signing up, and you don't want to miss anything that we share, and things that we are learning on this Heels Academy Risk Adjustment Made Easy series. Um, with that, I will go straight to some of the questions that we've gotten here, and we will be discussing through them, this live Q&A, within from now to 6:30 Eastern time here. All right. So, I have questions regarding data submission year. So, how is understanding the data submission year impact revenue cycle planning for risk adjustment? How is understanding the data submission year impact revenue cycle planning for risk adjustment? Okay, that's a good question. Um, Data submission year is pretty much the date and the date stamp that risk adjustment deadlines are used for, like the date stamps used for risk adjustment deadlines. So if you're revenue planning, you want to know what data are getting in before a deadline. And many times you are submitting data, and you may have data that comes in from multiple years, payment years, or service years that are in there. Um, but knowing the submission date here that is there can help you to know which data got cut off in the risk adjustment deadline, and therefore which goes into the model, and therefore which, where if you're calculating payment or reconciling payment, this is the date you are using, one of the dates that you're using to really identify. So if you know which is the deadline, you're able to submit prior to the deadline, or even you're able to also see which made it before the deadline or on the deadline, so that you're able to plan on which revenue that you are receiving, which data it correspond to, and therefore you are able to plan on that. So knowing the data submission year will impact your risk adjustment revenue. And it is very important to know that, so that you can better plan it, and also be able to calculate and reconcile appropriately. So that's the importance of knowing data submission year impact on revenue cycle and planning. Um, Another question that is here is, could you explain how data submission year affects the accuracy of risk adjustment coding? All right. I think in the revenue planning process, like uh, an encounter, meaning a face-to-face visit, or an encounter, a service that is being um, provided, the encounter has a date of service on it. So as a coder and biller, you probably have these dates in the billing and coding process, to submit a claim, or to submit an encounter to a health plan, or from the health plan to CMS. And as you are billing and coding, you are developing these you're pulling these data sets together, either manually, or I believe it's now more automated, or using technology to do that. Understanding the data submission date, um, knows which service happened, right? Knowing when the service happened, and when that service was submitted to CMS, or to the health plan, or to the clearinghouse, and then to CMS. So understanding data submission date affects you as a billing and coding, because now it is where that data flow is going to go from, if it's from the provider side going to the health plan side, going to a clearinghouse, going to CMS, and then back and forth through the data payment. So you need to understand, as billing and coding, it affects the revenue cycle, it affects everything, and you have to be able to better align all these data sets and know which one goes into the revenue process. So it's very important to know that. Um, a question I have here is, how does understanding the Julian date contribute to efficient data organization for risk adjustment purposes. Um, we learned that the Julian date is a continuous count of the number of days within a year, um, on and how that gets into the ICN, and we talked about the ICN, or we'll talk about ICN and what it means um, in some other series. So the Julian date here is actually equivalent to the submission date here, because it's the ICN has also the submission in there. So understanding that is also important in data organization, because now you are pulling data together. You are seeing which diagnosis fell where, which beneficiary received service when, which providers provided the service when. So knowing that knows which encounter record the data service was on and was submitted to CMS or submitted to a clearinghouse or submitted to a helpline. So knowing what the Julian date year is, you convert that to the submission year, and then you know the deadline cutoff as well. So all of them are helpful, because now as you one pulls data together, and your MORs may not, your model output reports may not have very all the information about, okay, this diagnosis came from this record, that diagnosis come from that record. But at least if you know um, the deadline, and you know what data got cut off on the deadline, and for a beneficiary profile, you are able to pull all these data together, knowing which diagnoses made it to when, and you are able to aggregate them together on for a beneficiary, and therefore you can see which HCCs was triggered, and therefore which risk adjustment, risk score, and how much payment you're gonna get. So all of them, knowing them is very important in aligning data, and aligning data to better reconcile your risk adjustment payment, um, timely, accurately, completely, and making sure that there are no errors in that. Um, so another question that I have, in terms of data retrieval, how does familiarity with Julian date streamline the auditing process for risk adjustment data? Hmm. Excuse me, that's a good question. Uh, Julian Day, pretty much the same thing. If you're doing audits internally, or you're getting audited by OIG or GAO or these auditing entities, um, they are auditing on a specific payment year, right? So knowing the Julian date, knowing what was submitted, knowing what data made it prior to the deadline, or those that made it to the deadline, knowing what diagnosis was on, knowing how to reconcile them together. One may know that, oh, it was this diagnosis and this, which was on that encounter, that we got paid on as a plan, as a health plan, as a provider, you got paid on. And therefore, when an auditing agency, or even if you're doing internal auditing, you are able to reconcile them together, because you know which made it to the deadline, which on which record it was, and therefore where did you get payment on, to be able to reconcile things correctly. Another question here is, what strategies can be implemented to ensure that risk adjustment activities remain synchronized with the calendar year? What strategies can be implemented to ensure that risk adjustment activities remain synchronized with the calendar year? So the risk adjustment things, within a year, there are so many things going on. So for example, we are in 2023. 2023, there is in September, you have initial for 2024 that is using data um, from prior years. So within each year, each calendar year, there are so many things going on. At the beginning, in the middle of this year, there was 2023 payments calculation using 2022. or 2022 using 2021 payments. And there are so many other years that are going on within a year, within a calendar year. So knowing calendar year will help you recognize which payment years are being done in that calendar year, and therefore, if you're getting any payments from CMS, you know which one does it correspond to. But because you're doing, if you're, for example, you're doing accounting, and you're closing books, you're doing reporting for maybe end of year revenue reporting and things like that, you are better able to align things to which year the money that you're receiving correspond to. um, Receiving money in 2023 doesn't necessarily mean you are getting 2023 payment, um, correspond to 2023 payment. In fact, 2024 payments was calculated this year, but start with 2024 January. But the data that goes in, maybe data from 2023 and data from prior, sorry. And so knowing the calendar year, for example, we're in 2023. 2023 is a calendar year. What are the payments that are being made here, in 2023? 2024, what are the payments that will be calculated and in 2024 calendar year, and what will be, if money you're receiving any money, what does it correspond to? It's pretty much like kind of, reconciling your your personal bank statements and doing that accounting. So understanding all these data, different types of years, and what payment correspond to what year, what money correspond to what year, what deadline correspond to what year, is very helpful in better, um, reporting and better aligning processes. Um, because if there's a deadline that is coming, and let's say, in 20, and this is just for an example purposes, let's say we are in 2023, and in 2023, we had, um, 2022 final payment. Let me use the right terminology so that I'm not confusing. Um, you have 2023 calendar year. Within 2023 calendar year, you calculate 2022 payment year. And within that, you are using 2021 service year. You're using 2021 service year. So 2021 service year for 2022 final being done in 2023 final, right? Um, oh, sorry, 2023 calendar year is being done in 2023 calendar year. You see how understanding this, you get, maybe you get a payment in 2023, but getting the payment in 2023 doesn't necessarily means the money is for 2023, right? 2023 payment year. This is for 2022 payment years. Therefore, you are able to correspond to that. And each with the 2022 payment year, it has a deadline. The 2022 payment year that is done in 2023 has a deadline, and that deadline correspond to a correspond to, I don't want to use SY again, but it corresponds to a submission year, maybe so that it's not confusing. It corresponds to a submission year, which is maybe as submission, SB year submission, or SM year, so that it's not confusing. Submission year. It has a submission year, and that submission year also, the deadline, excuse me, will be related to what, the date will be related to some Julian date year, right? With a Julian date year, and I'm trying to go through, and the data collection year that is needed for that is also payment year. We use 2021 service year, so the data collection year will also be the 2021. Um, and then which else on on my calendar year, submission year, Julian date year, payment year, data collection year, and payment year month. If that is done in 2023 and the payment actually comes out, um, it will, but maybe it's done in calendar year 2023. Let's say it was done in March, this just as an example, but the payment actually comes out in, let's say, May. Payment actually comes out in May. So if payment comes out in May 2023, then the payment month is May, and the payment month here is also 2023. So knowing these years is very helpful. Very helpful. It's very helpful. Knowing the years are very helpful because it helps in tying them together, and it helps in tying the data corresponding to all of them together. And you want to be able to understand these things to be able to better um, project, plan for the future, and also reconcile behind. And if you need any help, you can reach out to the Heels Academy in doing some of these things. You can reach out to us at the Heels Academy in looking at the data, in trying to help you understand this, and also be able to reconcile some of these terminologies and these data together, because it's very important in revenue projection, revenue planning, and for reconciliation, and even submitting data and for audit as well. So these are needed. All right, I will clean this up and then go on the next question here. And if you're getting confused here, if you look at the videos that we've been doing over the month, with Miss Jones and Mr. Clark, which we are using consistently, the information and have them, please go back and rewatch the videos. And they are clearly stated. And the videos are very short, 5 to 7 minutes. I think the max might be probably 7 minutes, but they are very short, straight to the point, one concept. So, excuse me, it helps you to get to what you need and have a better understanding. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to info@theheelsacademy.com, and we'll be happy to engage with you, talk through with you, see how we can better explain things to you, for you to get a better understanding. And because that's why we're here. The next question that I have here is, how does the data collection year influence the accuracy of risk score calculation and payment adjustment? How does um, how does data collection here influence the accuracy of risk score calculation and payment adjustment? It's fairly what I just explained, because the data collection year, which is the year that goes into the payment, and I just used one of them, um, knowing that from when the service happened, how it's coded, and how that makes it to the not just from coding, that makes it to the encounter data record, or the risk adjustment record, either encounter data, chart review, whatever it is, to the plan, to the clearinghouse, or wherever it goes to before it gets to CMS, and pulling them together and coming back to you in terms of money. Knowing that data collection period, which the example I just gave, and you can always go back to the examples in the videos to learn the sequence of how these are put together, or understanding of how these are put together. But the devil's always in the details as you work with data. um, but definitely aligning them can help you to know how accurate, so that you don't submit data that is corresponding to a year that is already passed into the year that we already calculating risk score. Excuse me. If that doesn't really get in there, then there is a payment error in there, overpayment. Excuse me, potential overpayment, and how that will affect reporting and all these audits. And you don't want to get there. You want to know this outright and do the accurate thing, earlier, as and reconcile them as you get through the process, then try to clean it up later. So These are very, very important. And for our audience that are joining us, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat wherever you're watching us from, um, and we can answer some now. But otherwise, I'll go through some of the questions that I have here. Um, could you elaborate on scenarios where misalignment with data collection year may occur and how this can be rectified? All right. Um, CMS has several ways, and for the next month ahead of us, we'll be going through the various ways of submission, in terms of original submission, replacement submission, voice submission. We'll be going through them next year. Oh, next month, not next year, next month. But there are several ways to clean up data. And if you submit a wrong data, the CMS have in the submission process several ways of cleaning up data. So if you're misaligned, those are the ways. And join us next month. We'll dig deeper into those things. Um, Ways that one can use to clean up data if there is misalignment. If data that was supposed to be for 2021 is submitted with a date of service 2022 on, that's a misalignment. Data not needed to be reconciled with 2023 payment, 2023 payment, or 2022 payment misaligned with you put it in 2021. That's a misalignment there. So there are ways to clean up data, based on the submission policies and submission processes, that we will talk about next month. So please don't hesitate to join us next month for that exciting episode on submission and various original submission, replacement submission, voiding, using chart reviews, and all the other things. Good stuff. So that's another way of cleaning up data to help align. But ideally, you want to know this earlier so that you can better submit. I think it's better, prevention than cure, because submission takes time, cleaning up takes time, takes effort. So understand these things from the source, from the provider side, from the billing and coding side, from data pulling together to the plan side, and data submission, even as an IT vendor or technology vendor, that is working through this. You want to understand it so that you are able to pull data correctly, for your client. Um, so knowing this is very crucial, and I think it will save much more money and resources if you understand these years and these things that we are learning here in our community, in Heels Academy, in order to prevent. Know it, do it right first time. It saves money, it saves effort, it saves time, um, than trying to clean it up, because then you have to spend extra resources, extra time. If there's audit, there's the stress, even the stress of it. Um, so know it and implement these processes earlier. And as I said, you can easily reach out to us at info at the Heels Academy, .com, to learn more, and we can definitely give you some insight into some things. But otherwise, I know as the time is almost up, it's one more minute, but I want to thank you for joining us. I know you could have done so many things, but you decided to join us, and you can always reach out to us at info at the Hills Academy. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. If you haven't joined our learning community, make sure you do that on our website. If you are someone who will benefit from this, comment, like, share, send me emails, reach out to me, because we are here to help. Um, our goal is that you, as a provider group, or a small health plan, or a small provider group, you will receive fair, accurate, complete, and timely risk adjustment payments. So we are here for you. So reach out to us, and then we can learn. And if you need training, or if you need any other resources on navigating resources or anything, just reach out to us. And again, my name is Prince Belwa, Dr. Prince Belwa, and we are the Heals Academy. And thank you for joining us again today. Otherwise, we will catch you next week with our next episode, exciting episodes on submission. And we hope to see you there. All right. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good evening. Bye.